Our next speaker, Jake McCauley, is the current Director of National Outreach and a Speakers Bureau member of the Institute on the Constitution, or the I.O.T.C., an educational outreach that presents the founders' American view of law and government. The I.O.T.C. has produced thousands of graduates in all 50 states with a full understanding of biblical principles on which Americans' founding documents are based. Please welcome Jake McCauley.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for what every single one of you do in your communities. I get the chance to travel around the country. And I see the real work being done by folks like yourself. So thank you very much. Thank you to Jerry McDaniels. I mean, my goodness, and Joe Dugan. Way to go, you guys. Way to go. I'd also like to introduce myself just really briefly. I was a counterculture kid up until I was about 17 years old. Sex, drugs, and partying, that's what I did. I would not have showed up at a meeting like this. I was part of the problem. I was one of the hopeless kids that you would have looked at and said, yeah, that's why America is doomed. I was on my way to treatment for the 5th time, and I went to a place called Minnesota Teen Challenge, if anybody's heard of Teen Challenge. It's a Christian place. And I love the quote that Representative Gomer just gave us by Benjamin Franklin. I met Jesus Christ there, and that forever revolutionized and changed my life, and that's why I'm here today with you. And it's a pleasure and an honor, and I really mean that. I'm with the Institute on the Constitution. We have Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We do constitutional commentaries. We teach a curriculum we've been doing for over a decade. The founder is former presidential candidate Michael Anthony Peroutka. And with that curriculum, it's a 12-lecture curriculum. We have it at the table downstairs. I'm going to reference that quite a bit during my 20 minutes here. If I could get the click, that would be awesome. I want to introduce my family, which is on the next slide. There we go. This is Dominic, Joshua, Charity, and Micah. They get invited to parades. They're homeschooled, so they're very brilliant. And at this parade, they won a trophy. They quote the Bill of Rights. They could memorize the Bill. They memorized the Bill of Rights before they could read. And I'm going to show you a video of that. My oldest, Dominic, was actually at a confirmation class, and he gave this profound answer. And the girl next to him said to the pastor, "How did he get so smart?" And the pastor turned to the back, he pointed to me, and he said, "You see that man back there?" And I felt pretty pride. He said, "His wife." So there's his wife. This is a video she put together, and I want to bring it from my home to yours to show you the power of educating kids in the Constitution and the biblical worldview, the underpinnings that underpin it. I was told there was a delay on this, so I hope it's coming up here shortly. She couldn't be here today, but she apologizes, wish she could be. She travels with me all over the country quite a bit. And you guys are going to love this. It's going to steal the show. And right now I'm just buying time until it goes. So if I feel a little uncomfortable, I am, all right? Everybody's looking at me, waiting for the video. I can tell you about Teen Challenge. Thank you. Well, actually, Dr. Ben Carson, if he's here right now, I'm not sure if he's in the room, but my kids said to me, "Listen, Dad, you've got to let Ben see this video." They love Ben Carson. I mean, don't we all? And by the way, don't leave while I'm talking because you'll lose your seat, and I know you want to see him, so please bear with me and listen. I'm not sure, AV guys, if we can click it forward, that would be great to that video.
Hi, I'm Heather McCauley, Jake's wife. As Jake explained to you, we were evangelical Christians in our 20s, and when we came across Institute on the Constitution and became aware of our godly heritage and the rights that we have been given, we wanted to pass that on to our children. So we've made that our personal conviction to teach them to go through the course. Our oldest 2 sons have graduated the course. They're learning the amendments, the Bill of Rights, the preamble to the Constitution, and the beginning of the Declaration of Independence. And we felt really convicted that this is our duty before God to do. And you know, we can fight and we can legislate and we can get right laws in and elect good people now. But if we fail to teach our children and our grandchildren, all is for nothing. We're going to lose everything that we have done. And so I would encourage you as a grandparent, as a father or mother, when you have your kids or grandkids come over, that you would teach them this course. Take the course, sit down with them, go through the amendments, go through the fact that these kids have God-given rights, that they need to know them, they need to be aware of our Constitution and how our government is founded, so they can be educated and we can maintain the liberties that we are fighting for. You educating your children is the most important thing, and I would really encourage you to take the course and teach it to them. Thank you so much. God gave us His law to protect our rights. We are one nation under God.
I am Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me.
Our founders had a king who was taking away our God-given rights, and they had to remind that king that he was not God. So they declared independence, stating, "We hold these truths to be self-evident
that all men are created equal, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed."
After this declaration, we needed a government system that would protect our God-given rights. So we, the people of the United
States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure these blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Our ability to worship the God that gave us our rights was top priority. So Congress shall make
no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
How are the people to protect their God-given rights in the case that government is not willing or able? A well-regulated militia
being necessary to the peace, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
We have many testimonies from parents and grandparents about our courses. One grandmother in particular took our course and then proceeded to teach it to her grandson, who then went to school, and the teacher gave them a history quiz. And one of the questions on the test was, what form of government is America? And it gave 3 choices: a mobocracy, a dictatorship, or a democracy. And the grandson said to the teacher, "Ma'am, you don't have the right answer on here." And she said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "According to Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, we have been given a republic as a form of government." And she said, "Where did you learn that?" And he said, "My grandma taught me." And that teacher invited that grandmother to come in and teach the Constitution to the rest of the class in the correct perspective through the American view that our founders gave us. And that can happen with you. And if you take those courses and you teach them, it will spread, and we would highly encourage you to do so. Thank you so much for your time and for listening. From my family to yours, thank you for listening. And we hope that you guys will teach your children the Constitution and their God-given rights.
Everything is the sun!
I don't know what the heck to say. What are we doing?
In here. She says there, what am I doing? That's a little behind the scenes. That's my family. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to that. As I said, we have a course of study we've developed. You can get it at our table downstairs. I encourage you to do that. Teach your kids. Grandparents, teach your grandchildren. You might end up in a public school next week. Who knows? We actually teach our curriculum in public schools. We've started what's called American clubs. I want you to have hope that this change, the real change, to our nation is happening right now. It's happening right in our midst, and it happens with kids like this and kids all over the country. And we appreciate all of your help and support to bring that. Now, I want to talk about a couple things that we discuss in our program. As I said, I'm a Christian. That's why I do this. We're one nation under God. And if it wasn't for Christians, we wouldn't have the nation that we have right now. We just wouldn't. The Bill of Rights says that I wasn't always a voting Christian. I was an evangelical that never even voted. I didn't understand. I thought that the government was dirty politics, and who would ever get involved in that? I'm a Christian. I need to win people to Jesus, but my culture was destroyed around me, being destroyed around me. I went into public schools and shared my testimony, and boy, I caught a lot of flack, especially from the atheist groups and the GLBT groups. I never even talked about homosexuality or atheism, but they were clearly against my Christian faith. So I'm a counterculture kid. Like I said, I got in a lot of trouble. The more you told me not to do something, the more I wanted to what? That's right. I'm still a counterculture kid. I just happen to be on the right side by God's amazing grace. So the more they tell me I can't go to public schools, the more I want to what? Absolutely. And that's what we should all be thinking. When they say no, what is God's yes? Article 5 says, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The Declaration of Independence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. How many people believe we're born equal in here? It sounds great, but you're all wrong. We're not born equal. The Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal. When is a child created? In the womb. And no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Has a child in the womb ever committed a crime? Abortion is illegal in this nation. You know why? Because law doesn't come from a dude with a cell phone and a pen. It doesn't come from a Supreme Court justice who wears a black robe. Who does law come from? Imagine if we all decided, how many of you would like to fly in here? Just an analogy. I would. The rest of you have gotten way too old. You know you want to fly. But we can't fly because why? There's a law called gravity. That law discriminates against us. So what I do is I get up to the podium and I start campaigning to do away with the law of gravity because it's discriminating against my right to fly. So we take a vote. 51% of us agree. Yeah, let's get rid of gravity. That's not going to fly in America. We want liberty. And so we sign it into law. We make Jerry the president or Joe Dugan the president. Or Ben Carson the president. And he signs it into law. And tomorrow morning we get on top of the hotel and we jump. Can we fly? What happens to us? The ramification of breaking the law. Why? Because we can't change law. We're people. We're humans. We're created by God who gave us our rights. And why did God give us law? Because God loves us. He loves every one of you in this room. And He gave us law to protect your right to life. That's why He said, thou shalt not. He gave you the right to have property. That's why He said, thou shalt not. He wanted children to have parents. And He wanted families to stay together. That's why He said, thou shalt not commit. Exactly. Do you see why we have law? Because of love for the rights that He gave us and love for each individual. Abortion is illegal in this country. I don't care what a Supreme Court justice says. There's ramifications for every time we think we've changed the law and we try to disobey it. Where do we get our rights from? Do you ever see across the country in all the 50 states the adultery pride parades, men walking around saying, we want our right to adultery? Well, that's ridiculous. It hasn't come to that point yet. But think about the other pride parades that are trouncing around trying to break the institution of marriage. Think about the God-given laws that have been created for families and children that have been abandoned. See, the thing is, they want to assert new rights so they can get control of the law. And why do they want the law? Because the law reflects power. It represents power. They can use the force of power. There is no right, what? You only have a right to do something. You have a right is something you have the freedom to exercise, and you don't have the right to break the law. And therefore, to a third point to that, freedom is only found in the confines of law, just like the train is only free when he's on the tracks. Imagine a train who wants to be free from the tracks. Does that make any sense? Imagine an America that wants to be free from the law. Imagine a government system that wants to be free from the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Is that going to work? It's going to be a train wreck, and that's what we're seeing the fruit of. But see, kids don't understand this because they don't know where they've come from. It's like the mall map. When you go into the mall, you see the little dot. It says, you are here. That's where a child is in history. And the map fills in the details. You can see where he came from, where he's going, where he wants to go. Unfortunately, nowadays, we don't teach the Constitution. We don't teach God-given values. Public institutions are at war against the God that actually ordained and established them to protect the rights of the people. And so what happens, the kid walks into the mall, he sees the dot that says, you are here, but there's no map behind it. He doesn't know where he's going because he doesn't know where he's came from. And unfortunately, that's the epidemic in our nation. You do not have a right to do a wrong thing, do you? So we've got to be careful of asserting too many of our rights that aren't God-given rights. I want you all, I'm probably not going to teach you much up here, but I want you to memorize this. What does it take to be an American? Is it a driver's license? Is it a birth certificate? What if it comes from Hawaii? Does that make you... Sorry, I couldn't resist. How about a driver's license, a social security number? George Washington had none of the above. That's not what makes you American, but this is. We can all ascribe to this. Let's repeat it. There is a God. This is the American view of law and government. Our rights come from Him. The purpose of civil government is to secure our God-given rights. Now, I love the press and the bloggers. They like to say that I'm all about just revolutionizing government. I want theocracy. I want it all run by the Bible. I didn't take that from the Bible. I took that from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created. There is a God. And they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Our rights come from Him. And that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. The purpose of civil government is to secure our God-given rights. Wouldn't you love a country where that existed? We live in it, folks. We have to restore it, though, don't we? And that's part of the journey. That's part of what we do, the Institute on the Constitution. Our founders gave us how many branches of government? I just want to go to the divine origins of our government system. A prophet, Isaiah, thousands of years before our founders came up with this concept, said, "For the Lord is our judge." There's your judicial branch. "The Lord is our lawgiver." There's your legislative branch. "The Lord is our king." There's your executive branch. "He will save us." Was the emphasis on the people? Was it on King David? Was it upon the people in the legislature? No, it was upon the system that was created, and they put their faith and confidence and trust in who? God. That's why I love when people say, well, just cool it on the God stuff, because the more they tell me not to, the more I want to what? If we don't have God, we don't have God-given liberties. If we don't have God-given liberties, then this is all a waste of time. But it's not, is it? Because that's exactly what we have. There's been this crazy understanding. It's called separation of... That's right. I want to give you an understanding of that, and that's all the time that I have. So with this analogy, I'm going to end. There's 4 walls in this room, isn't there? Let's just say that there are 4 perfect walls. With every lie, you have to tell a little bit of truth in order to make it a good lie and to sell it. There is such thing as separation of church and state. As a matter of fact, our founders wanted separation of church and state because the king at that particular time was the head of the church and the state. He controlled your conscience, the way you thought, and your thoughts. Thought police, kind of like hate crimes. But he controlled your thoughts, and then he could execute justice upon you for just treason of thinking or treason of speaking. We can't do this in this country because we've separated these jurisdictions. Well, we're going to put God on the ceiling for the sake of the analogy because He's above all the walls. He created all the walls. All the walls touch Him and are accountable to Him for their jurisdictions. There's 4 branches of government that God ordained. 4. Most people think there is. I thought there was only 1. No, the first and most important is on the wall behind me. This is called self-government. It's me. It keeps me from swearing. It keeps me from stealing. It keeps me from taking off my clothes in public and whatever else. That's self-government. It's the most important jurisdiction we have. That's where it all starts. That's where the power starts. If we can't do this, I don't care how big civil government is, it can't control a nation. So self-governed people are going to be free. Then over here we have a family government because children grow up and they need parents, don't they? I don't know about your children, but mine do. I know they look great there, but whoo! God bless my wife. So the family government, that institution is where we're to train our children, the nurture and the admonition of fear of the Lord. That jurisdiction also controls health care, welfare, and education. Health, education, and welfare. That's where it belongs. God ordained that. So health care is an example. When your young son or daughter is sick or they hurt themselves, who do they run to? They run to mom, and mom fixes it. There's your health care. They don't run to dad. He'll say, get up, you little wuss. Come on. That's why God gave us women. God bless women. Secondly, there's health care. Secondly, education. Who's in charge of educating our children? Is it the state? No, think about it. Is it the state? No, because the state doesn't have any kids. And the state's never even been pregnant. So how in the world do they have kids to educate? They don't. But we've trusted in a system that's unconstitutional, first of all, and unbiblical, to train and educate our kids. So there's education, welfare. When a student turns 18, he's ready to go to college. He's only got 10 grand in the bank. Who does he turn to for a loan? The federal government? That's nonsense. He should turn to his parents, shouldn't he, and his family. Then God created churches because families came together. Our founders, when they established the Constitution that we have now, before that, our Pilgrim ancestors, Puritans, Separatists, they came here. The first building they built was a church. Did you know that? Church. Why? Divine church services so the families could come and get together and interact. That church institution takes care of families when they can't afford health care. That's why every hospital you see prior to maybe the 80s and the 90s was what? St. Joseph, St. Jude, St. Mark's, Holy Mother, etc. All these are Christian hospitals started because healthcare was controlled by the churches. And then you also have the civil government. This was created for one reason, to secure your God-given rights. How does it do that? It does that by protecting the borders, and it also does that by administering the justice system. That's it. Shouldn't create anything, shouldn't create jobs, none of that stuff. I hate the nonsense. Well, we need to go to D.C. to create jobs. Baloney, it's not your job. Your job is to protect us. We create jobs. And that shows you a constitutionally illiterate person who says any different. So civil government is over on that wall, and the church government is on that wall. Which corner? Where's the separation? It's right there. See, the media would have you believe that the separation actually is between God and government. The real separation is this. Do you want Nancy Pelosi administering your sacraments on Sunday morning? Do you want your pastor to have to raise an army to defend the borders? Never mind, he'd do a better job. But that's not his job, is it? You don't go to your pastor and say, hey, he stole from me, throw him in jail. God ordains civil government for that purpose. But he is not separated from them. As a matter of fact, in Romans 13, God says that government is a minister of God to thee for good. It's just as sacred to be a governor as it is to be a preacher. Preaching isn't the only holy work. As a matter of fact, the best religious precedent that's been set this decade, or maybe the decade before, was not by men like Billy Graham. It was set by Hobby Lobby. They're not preachers. They're Christians standing up, being ministers of God in this country for our sake. So with that, we have to understand that separation and where it is and a healthy understanding of it. That's all I have, but can you repeat this with me? TheAmericanView.com is the website, but we are all Americans, aren't we? We need to think American, and we need to have the right view. So can we say it together? There is a God. Our rights come from Him. The purpose of civil government is to protect God-given rights. God bless you all. TheAmericanView.com. Thank you.